My sister used to sneer that I married just a farmer, while she had a so-called financial genius. When their empire crumbled, my parents turned to me, insisting I sell my husband's land to rescue them. But the room fell silent when my husband calmly revealed who the real owner was. It all started on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my wedding day. I was 29, standing in my grandmother's altered wedding gown, feeling like a princess in a fairy tale. My husband, Peyton, was beside me, his calloused hand wrapped around mine, his brown eyes steady as ever. We were at the reception, surrounded by 200 guests, champagne flutes clinking like wind chimes in a storm. Then my sister Tamara stood up to give her toast. She was 31, radiant in her designer bridesmaid dress, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "To the happy couple," she said, her voice dripping with that fake sweetness only she could pull off, who always did love playing in the mud. The room erupted in laughter, and I felt my cheeks burn like I'd been slapped. Every eye turned to me and Peyton, and I wanted to disappear. See, that's the thing about my family. They've always had a way of making me feel small. Growing up in our polished upper middle class world, I was the odd one out. My dad, Donald, was a retired executive with a silver mane and a permanent look of mild disappointment. My mom, Rossi, was the queen of appearances, always fussing over how things looked to the neighbors. Tamara, my older sister, was the golden child, Stanford MBA, corner office in Manhattan, married to Elijah, a guy who wore $1,000 suits and talked about stock portfolios like they were poetry. Then there was Erin, my younger sister, 27 at the time, the peacemaker who tried to smooth over our family's sharp edges. And me? I was the one who chose a simpler path, as my dad put it in his wedding speech, his voice heavy with judgment. I was the one who fell in love with a farmer, Peyton, a man who worked with his hands and smelled like earth and hard work. To them, that made me less. That wedding moment set the tone. Tamara's toast wasn't just a joke. It was a reminder of where I stood in the family hierarchy. My mom hissed at me to smile, her manicured nails digging into my arm. "People are watching," she said, like I was a kid who'd forgotten her lines in the school play. But Peyton? He just squeezed my hand under the table, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "Let them laugh," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. "We know what we have." God, I loved him for that. Even covered in a thin layer of field dust, because yes, he'd checked the irrigation system that morning. He was more real than anyone in that room full of fake smiles and pressed suits. I stood up, my chair scraping loud enough to hush the chatter. I raised my water glass because I'm too practical to waste good champagne, and looked right at Tamara. "To family," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest, "and to learning who really has your back when it matters." The room went quiet, and Tamara's smile faltered for just a second before she raised her glass with everyone else. It felt like I'd drawn a line in the sand, even if no one else realized it yet. Peyton leaned over and whispered, "That's my girl." I had no idea how right he'd turn out to be. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm standing in Tamara's marble-tiled foyer, holding a green bean casserole that probably cost less than her doormat. The annual Blair family barbecue was in full swing, and it was like stepping back into my childhood, clinking glasses, forced laughter, and that subtle art of one-upmanship my family had perfected. My mom greeted me on the patio, already talking about Tamara and Elijah's New Hamptons house. Of course they were. Tamara glided over in a white sundress that cost more than my monthly grocery budget, eyeing my casserole like it might bite her. "How thoughtful," she said, her tone implying it was anything but. Elijah, martini in hand, his polo shirt so crisp it could cut paper, chimed in. "Is it organic or just basic?" The group around us chuckled, and I felt that familiar heat creeping up my neck. Peyton stepped up beside me, his worn jeans and simple cotton shirt a stark contrast to Elijah's designer everything. "It's homegrown," he said quietly. "From our garden." Elijah smirked. "Right, the farming thing. Still playing in the dirt?" More laughter. My dad joined in, bourbon in hand, asking when we were going to do something more substantial with our lives. Even my mom, usually the one to rein him in, looked curious. I wanted to scream, but Peyton just said, "We're happy." "The work is good. Honest work," Elijah repeated. "Honest work," like it was a punchline, and the group laughed again. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "At least we sleep well at night," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. The laughter died. Tamara's smile tightened. "What's that supposed to mean?" she snapped. I backpedaled, saying it was just about physical work, but the damage was done. I'd crossed a line, and everyone felt it. Later, by the pool, Erin handed me a glass of wine and admitted things were tense with Tamara and Elijah. "Some of his investments haven't been going well," she whispered. "Big ones." Tamara's talking about adjusting their lifestyle. I filed that away, not sure what to make of it. Then Tamara called me over to settle a debate. I braced myself. "We were just discussing career trajectories," she said, her smile predatory. "You've really found your calling, haven't you? Subsistence farming." The group laughed on cue. She stepped closer. "Don't you ever wonder what you could have accomplished if you'd applied yourself instead of settling for this quaint little life?" The words hit like a punch, dragging up every doubt I'd ever had. "Some of us dream bigger than vegetable gardens and county fairs," she added. "Real life happens on Wall Street, not in your little bubble." The silence was deafening. Even her friends looked uncomfortable. I set down my wine glass. "You're right," I said quietly. "Real life does happen in ways you never expect." 6 months later, the cracks in my family's perfect facade started to show. My parents stopped their weekly calls, boasting about Tamara's latest triumphs. When I did talk to them, they sounded like they were reading from a script with half the pages missing. missing. At Erin's birthday dinner, she let slip that Elijah's company was in trouble, big trouble. They'd put the Hamptons house and their boat on the market, and Tamara was asking family for loans. I felt a flicker of something. Not quite satisfaction, but close. Have they asked you for money? Peyton asked Erin. Not yet, she said, but only because I don't have any to give. Then came the call from my mom. Her voice was shaky, older than I remembered. Can you come by the house this weekend? We need to discuss something as a family. In Blair family speak, that was code for bad news. I looked at Peyton, who was loading tomatoes into crates, his shoulders tense. They're going to ask for money, I said. He nodded. We both knew it was true. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Part of me was almost excited. After years of being the family disappointment, they needed me. The irony was delicious. They'd mocked our simple little life for so long, and now they were coming to the farm girl for help. But another part of me, the little girl who'd once begged Tamara to let me play with her, felt sick at the thought of their pain. Saturday morning was gray and drizzly, matching my mood. Peyton was quiet as we drove to my parents' house, his jaw tight. Whatever they asked, he said, you don't owe them anything. I nodded, but my phone buzzed with a text from Tamara. Emergency family meeting. Please come, we need you. My sister, who'd spent years telling me I'd never amount to anything, was asking for my help. The living room felt like a courtroom. My parents sat on the couch looking older than ever. Tamara perched on an armchair, her designer clothes wrinkled, her composure cracked. Elijah stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking haggard. Erin sat on the ottoman, avoiding my eyes. My dad spoke first. We're facing financial challenges, significant ones. My mom twisted her wedding ring. We could lose everything. Elijah had made bad investments with their money, my parents' retirement, Tamara's savings, even their daughter Tiffany's college fund. And now they wanted our help. Specifically, they wanted us to sell our farm. The words hit like a slap. You want us to sell our home, I said, to fix your mistakes. Tamara leaned forward, desperate. It's just land, Bethany. You could buy another farm anywhere, Elijah exploded. It's dirt and weeds and nothing. My mom sobbed. Family helps family. But I was done. Where was this family loyalty when you mocked everything we built? I stood, shaking. Every gathering, every holiday, you made us feel like charity cases. And now when your schemes fall apart, suddenly we're family? Peyton stood too. We're leaving, he said. My dad called after us. You'll come to your senses once you realize what you owe us. I turned back. What exactly do we owe you after 30 years of being treated like a family disappointment? Back home, Peyton led me to his office in the barn. I need to show you something, he said, pulling out a folder. This is who we really are. Inside were patents, financial statements, legal papers. Our farm wasn't just a farm, it was the R&D headquarters for Stone Agricultural Technologies, a company Peyton had started 5 years ago worth $50 million. He patented our irrigation system, our soil analysis software, all developed on this worthless patch of dirt. And Elijah? He'd bet against us, shorting our stock with my parents' retirement money, convinced we'd fail. Every dollar he lost went to us when our stock doubled. The next day, my family showed up at our farm, demanding we sign sale papers. Peyton laid out the truth. Our patents, our company, our worth. Elijah went pale. My parents stared at the documents like they were in a foreign language. Tamara cried, and me, I finally said what I'd been holding in for years. You saw what you wanted to see. People you could look down on to feel better about yourselves. I want you to leave and never come back. They left, their cars kicking up dust as they drove away. For the first time in 30 years, I was free. Erin called later, sobbing, apologizing for not standing up for me. I invited her to dinner. Just her, no drama. And then a woman from the Department of Agriculture showed up talking about a $2.7 million grant for our drought-resistant crop research. While my family had been demanding we sacrifice everything, we were working on something that could feed millions. Sitting on our porch that evening, the fields glowing under the sunset, Peyton asked if I had any regrets. I thought about my family's tears, their desperation, the years of feeling like I wasn't enough. No, I said, I choose us. This life, this work, this future. He smiled. We're going to change the world, Beth, one seed at a time. And for the first time, I knew I was exactly where I belonged, on this land, with this man, doing work that mattered. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything.